Witchcraft gone wrong. This story came from someone named Jocelyn. Jocelyn said that I could use her real name in the story, and she actually supported this with a news article from her town. This story takes a crazy, crazy turn. Maybe one of the craziest endings that I've gotten for Spooky Scary Storytime. Also, trigger warning on this one because there is a little bit of violence. Actually a really violent ending, so consider yourself forewarned. But Jocelyn says in 6th grade, she moved to a new house. She grew up in West Virginia, and when they moved to this new house, she made friends with this group of girls, some of who she's still friends with to this day. Jocelyn and her new friends had an interest in everything paranormal, everything spooky, as preteen girls sometimes do. So Jocelyn makes friends with this one girl named Kaylee who didn't live too far from her, and Kaylee says one day, I have a Ouija board, you guys want to play with it? And Jocelyn had never played with one before, so she's like, yeah, everybody come sleep over at my house, we'll play with it. They were really excited. And that's where everything started to go wrong, because of course it did. If you haven't learned anything from these stories, don't play with Ouija boards. But they're like, whatever, nothing's gonna happen. So they all gather at Jocelyn's house, they bring out the Ouija board. As they were playing with it, the planchette was sliding all over the place. They kept taking their hands off it to see who was moving it, because they were like, there's no way this thing is moving on its own, right? But she swears at one point they all took their fingers off and the planchette flew across the board on its own, which freaked them out so much they ran upstairs to see what her parents were doing. And she said stupidly they didn't say goodbye to whatever this was. Ouija boards are still marketed as a children's game I will never understand, but I digress. From that point forward, they were not going to play with the Ouija board anymore because it scared them too much, but they were still interested in contacting supernatural forces or the paranormal. So they decided that they were going to try scrying, which if you're unfamiliar, scrying is when you gaze into a reflective surface and you try to catch glimpses of the past, the future, other dimensions. Sometimes people use mirrors, sometimes they use crystal balls, sometimes they use the glass surface of water. Jocelyn and her friends started with water, but they couldn't really see anything, so they decided to use a mirror in Jocelyn's bedroom. They didn't see anything in there either, though. Jocelyn's friends leave, and she goes to bed that night thinking nothing of it. She wakes up in the middle of the night, remembers looking at the mirror on the wall facing her bed. In the mirror, standing next to her bed, is a woman wearing a white nightgown. As well as a ghost with a short brown bob. The woman's face was expressionless. Jocelyn said, I must have been surrounded by an angel or God or something because I don't remember being scared. So I shifted around in bed a little bit. I looked at the mirror to see if it was maybe just the way that I was laying and something else was catching, but the woman still stood there. And as I looked again, she bowed her head to look at the floor. She's convinced at this point that she's just dreaming, so somehow she falls back asleep. She said she woke up again, though, while it was still dark out, again in the middle of the night, and she happened to look at the mirror again, but this time the woman's standing there, but her head was bent sideways, and she had a shocked and angry expression across her face. Typing that part out still gives her chills, and to this day, she's afraid of mirrors. These are just 2 examples of some paranormal activity she said she experienced while living in that house, and this is her real name, so she said she'll be in the comments if people want to know more about these experiences. But anyway, fast forward, they move out of the house. When they moved, she said for some reason her stepdad would not let her take that mirror out of her bedroom. She doesn't know why, she doesn't remember why, but he was like, just leave it, we'll get you a new one when we move. After they move, all of the paranormal activity in her life seems to cease. She's like, everything's cool, I'm happy. Then she finds out sometime after moving that there had been a homeless woman sleeping on the porch of the house when a man came up to her in the middle of the night and, trigger warning, this is where it gets violent, poured gasoline on her and lit her on fire. Sent me this article. I blocked out, obviously, the trigger word in the title so I don't get censored. But this man in the interview says that he was under the influence of paranormal activity when he did it. Tons and tons of news articles about this. The guy did end up getting charged in 2019. I looked it up, and now he's serving a life sentence. Yeah, she said that she was sharing this as a reminder that witchcraft is not a game. You should leave it to practitioners if you're interested in it. Or at least the part about contacting other entities, because you truly never know who you're contacting. You hear this is Spooky Scary Storytime, the series where I share listeners' allegedly true stories about the creepiest or most unbelievable things that they've ever experienced. If you have a story, we would love to hear it.